The Grand Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime had never been so quiet. 847 species sat in their designated chambers, their various forms of breathing creating a strange symphony of sounds. Some breathed oxygen like humans. Others required methane or chlorine atmospheres, sitting in specialized containment fields. The hall was built to accommodate them all, a testament to the Galactic Council's reach across known space. Ambassador Deho stood at the central podium, his simple black suit a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by other delegates. He was a tall man with graying hair, his face weathered by 50 years of diplomatic service. His hands rested calmly on the podium, but those who knew him well could see the tension in his shoulders. Members of the Galactic Council, Deho began, his voice amplified across the massive chamber. I stand before you today to deliver humanity's final message to this assembly. Chancellor Vexter, the reptilian leader of the council, shifted in his elevated throne. His scales were a deep emerald green, and his eyes were cold as they fixed on the human ambassador. Ambassador Deho. The session was called to discuss trade regulations. Whatever grievance humanity wishes to air can wait for the proper committee hearing. Deho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. There will be no committee hearing, Chancellor. Effective immediately, humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council. All human embassies across Council space will close within 48 hours. Every trade agreement between humanity and Council members is hereby void. All military cooperation agreements are terminated. All cultural exchange programs are ended. The silence shattered. Delegates erupted in clicks, chirps, whistles, and shouts. The insectoid Vrin representatives clacked their mandibles together in agitation. The crystalline Luthlik who communicated through light patterns flashed angry reds and oranges. Even the normally serene Morvathi began arguing among themselves. Psst. Order. Vexter's voice boomed through the chamber, enhanced by the hall's audio systems. Ambassador, you cannot simply announce such a decision. There are protocols. There are procedures. Humanity has obligations under council law. Humanity no longer recognizes the authority or legitimacy of this council, Deho said simply. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. We owe you nothing. We expect nothing from you. This relationship is over. Vrin, delegate, her compound eyes gleaming, rose from her seat. This is madness. Humanity cannot survive without the council's protection. You'll be torn apart by raiders and pirates within months. Deho's expression didn't change. Like we were protected at New Jeju. The chamber fell silent again. Every delegate knew about New Jeju. 3 months ago, the human colony world had been attacked by Kravathi pirates. The raid had lasted for 6 days. 2 million human civilians had died. Humanity had begged the council for military intervention. They had pleaded for help from their supposed allies. The council had formed a committee to study the situation. By the time the committee issued its report recommending diplomatic pressure on the Kravathi Dominion, everyone on New Jeju was dead. Deho's voice was steady, but his eyes were hard. We brought evidence of the Kravathi fleet's movements. We showed you their attack patterns. We gave you time to act, and you did nothing. You talked, you debated, you formed committees, and while you talked, our people burned. The situation was complex, Vexter said, his voice defensive. The Kravathi Dominion is a council member. We could not simply attack them without what? Deho interrupted. Without a proper investigation? Without considering all perspectives? Tell me, Chancellor, how many human perspectives did you need to hear before deciding that mass murder was worth acting on? A Draxian admiral, his scaled face scarred from countless battles, stood. Ambassador, New Jeju was a tragedy. But this reaction is extreme. Let us negotiate. Let us find common ground. There is no common ground, Deho said. Humanity has learned a valuable lesson from New Jeju. We learned that in this council, human lives are expendable. We learned that committees and debates matter more than justice. We learned that we cannot trust our safety to anyone but ourselves. Died. He pressed a button on the podium, and a holographic display appeared above the chamber. It showed the orbital space above Nexus Prime, 50 human warships hung in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the system's star. They were massive vessels, each one bristling with weapons and defensive systems. "We came prepared for any attempt to stop our departure," Deho continued. "But we hope it won't be necessary. Humanity doesn't want war with the Council. We simply want nothing more to do with you." Vexter rose from his throne, his full height impressive even by galactic standards. "You threaten this council with military force? In our own capital system? This is an act of war." "No, Chancellor," Deho said quietly. "This is an act of divorce. We're leaving. You can let us go peacefully, or you can try to stop us. The choice is yours." A Luthic delegate, its crystalline form pulsing with worried yellow light, spoke through its translator. "What about the trade routes? Human shipyards produce 40% of the Council's commercial vessels. Human factories manufacture most of our medical supplies. Human farms feed billions across dozens of worlds. You cannot simply abandon these responsibilities," Deho replied. He gathered his papers from the podium, a gesture more symbolic than necessary in an age of digital records. "We've already recalled every human ship from Council space. Every human factory has shut down production for Council clients. Every human farm has redirected its harvests to human markets. You had decades to appreciate what humanity contributed to this Council. You chose to take us for granted." He began walking toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. Then he paused and turned back. "One more thing," Deho said. "In the spirit of our former friendship, I'll give you some advice. The Kravathi who attacked New Jeju didn't do it on their own initiative. They were testing Council resolve. They wanted to see if you would defend a member species on the frontier. You failed that test. Now they know you're weak. They know you'll debate and form committees while worlds burn. I'd suggest you prepare for what comes next." "Is that a threat?" Vexter demanded. No, Deho said. "It's a warning. Goodbye, Chancellor. Goodbye, Council. Humanity is done with you." He walked out of the Grand Assembly Hall without looking back. Behind him, chaos erupted once more. Delegates shouted questions. Some demanded he be arrested. Others called for immediate military action. Still others simply sat in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened. Outside the hall, Captain Minji waited with a security detail. She was a short woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. "How did it go?" she asked. "As expected," Deho replied. "They're confused and angry. They don't understand yet. Will they try to stop us?" Deho glanced up at the sky, where he knew the human fleet waited. "Maybe, but it won't matter. We're leaving this place, and we're never coming back." The human delegation boarded their shuttle and lifted off from Nexus Prime. Within hours, every human diplomat, every human civilian, every human soldier in Council space was doing the same. They were going home. They were leaving the Galactic Council behind, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council, and every attempt to contact human space went unanswered. The Ansible communication stations that humanity had maintained across dozens of sectors simply stopped broadcasting. Trade ships that approached the borders of human territory reported that their hails went ignored. Some of those ships crossed into human space anyway. Hoping to find opportunities in the chaos, those ships never came back. In the Grand Assembly Hall, the mood was very different from the day of humanity's departure. Where there had been shock and anger, now there was smug satisfaction. The Vryn ambassador stood at the central podium, her mandibles clicking with pleasure. As predicted, she announced to the gathered delegates, humanity's isolation is already showing cracks. Their economy must be in free fall without access to council markets. Their colonies must be suffering without the protection of council military forces. I estimate they will request readmission within 1 standard year. The Morvathi economic minister, a blob-like creature that communicated through chemical signals translated by a machine, agreed enthusiastically. Our models show complete economic collapse within 18 months. The humans were dependent on council trade for 70% of their rare earth minerals. Without them, their industrial base will crumble. Chancellor Vexler sat on his throne looking pleased. Since humanity's departure, he had moved quickly to consolidate power. The council had voted to freeze all human assets in council space. Former human trade stations and outposts had been declared abandoned property and open to new claims. Several species had already moved to occupy former human territories. The humans were always arrogant, Vexler said. They believed their little industrial capacity made them indispensable. Now they're learning the price of that arrogance. When they come crawling back, begging for readmission, we'll make sure they understand their place in the galactic order. The delegates applauded. Only a few remained silent, watching the proceedings with worried expressions. But not everyone in the council was celebrating. In a small apartment on Nexus Prime, far from the grand halls of power, a woman named Haijin sat in front of multiple computer screens. She was human, one of a handful who had chosen to remain behind when humanity withdrew. Officially, she was a freelance journalist covering council affairs. Unofficially, she was a deep-cover intelligence operative. She typed a brief message on her secure terminal. They believe their own propaganda. They have no idea what's coming. The response came back within seconds. Continue monitoring. Report any military movements. Haijin deleted both messages and returned to her work. She had seen the classified reports from human intelligence. She knew what her people were really doing out there in the darkness beyond council space. The council thought humanity was collapsing. They were wrong. Humanity was preparing. The first sign that something was wrong came from the Kravathi. The same pirates who had destroyed New Jeju decided to press their advantage. If the council wouldn't defend human territory, then that territory was there for the taking. A Kravathi war fleet of 47 ships jumped into the Harmony Station system. A former human trade hub on the edge of council space, the Kravathi expected resistance. They expected desperate human defenders trying to protect their property. What they found instead was deeply unsettling. Harmony Station was intact. Its lights were on. Its reactors were humming with power. Its defensive systems were active but not engaging. But there wasn't a single life sign anywhere on the massive structure. The station that had once housed 200,000 humans was completely empty. The Kravathi commander, a brutal warrior named Kresh, was suspicious. "This is a trap," he told his officers. "The humans are hiding somewhere, waiting to ambush us." But scans showed nothing. No hidden ships. No concealed weapons. Just an empty station floating in space, perfectly maintained but utterly abandoned. Greed overcame caution. Kresh ordered his fleet to dock with the station. Boarding parties swept through the corridors, finding everything in perfect order. Living quarters were clean. Cafeterias had food and storage. Shops still had merchandise on their shelves. It was as if everyone had simply vanished in the middle of their daily routines. "Secure the station," Kresh ordered. "Begin transferring valuable equipment to our ships. This is the greatest prize we've ever The explosion was visible from 3 light years away. Harmony Station's fusion reactors overloaded simultaneously, creating a blast that vaporized everything within 1,000 kilometers. 47 Kravathi ships and their 20,000 crew members were atomized in an instant. Only one ship, posted on the edge of the system as a lookout, managed to jump away before the blast wave reached it. The sole survivor returned to Kravathi space with a terrifying report. The humans had turned their own station into a trap. They had left it as bait, perfectly preserved and operational, waiting for someone to take it. The story spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Other species began reporting similar findings. A Luthic exploration team approached the human colony world of New Sol, expecting to find struggling survivors. Instead, they found a city of 7 billion people simply gone. Buildings stood intact. Power grids were running. Automated systems maintained the streets and buildings. But every single human had vanished. It wasn't just New Sol. Reports came in from dozens of human worlds. All of them were the same. Empty but maintained. Not destroyed, not damaged, just abandoned. The humans had evacuated entire planets. And somehow, they had done it without anyone noticing. A Draxian military analyst named Torvin studied the reports with growing concern. He was an admiral, a veteran of countless campaigns, and he understood military logistics. What the humans had apparently done should have been impossible. To evacuate a single city of 7 billion people would require thousands of transport ships making hundreds of trips each, he explained to his superiors. The logistics alone would take years. And they did this to dozens of worlds simultaneously, without anyone detecting the fleet movements. Either they have transportation technology far beyond what they showed us, or what? His commander asked. Or they evacuated these worlds years ago, Torvin said quietly. Before they ever left the council? Which means this wasn't a spontaneous decision. They've been planning this for a long time. That thought troubled many in the council, but Chancellor Vexther dismissed such concerns. Let them hide in the darkness, he declared. Without council support, they'll wither and fade. In a few years, we'll barely remember they existed. But then came the report from the Luthic scout ship. A small exploration vessel had been surveying systems on the far edge of former human space, looking for valuable resources. They had stumbled upon something that defied explanation. The scout ship's captain, still shaking from what she had seen, transmitted the data to council headquarters. The images showed a structure in deep space, far from any star system. It was massive, easily the size of a small planet. The structure was clearly artificial, built from materials that gleamed in the light of distant stars. It was incomplete, with vast sections still under construction. But even half-finished, it was the largest artificial structure anyone had ever seen. What is that? The Luthic captain had asked in her report. What are the humans building? Before she could investigate further, something had jammed her ship's sensors. She had felt a presence, something vast and watchful, and had fled in terror. The coordinates she transmitted showed the structure was in what used to be considered empty space on the human frontier, a region that Council surveys had marked as devoid of anything interesting. When the report reached Nexus Prime, Ajin made sure to forward it through her secure channels. Within hours, she received a response that made her smile. Thank you for the update. Tell them to look closer. The Council was beginning to realize that something was very wrong. Humanity hadn't collapsed. They hadn't come crawling back begging for readmission. They had simply disappeared into the darkness, taking their people, their technology, and their secrets with them. And somewhere out there, beyond the reach of Council sensors, they were building something. Something big. The Council could no longer ignore the mystery. Chancellor Vexther, despite his public confidence, was privately worried. The reports from the frontier were disturbing. Empty worlds, vanished populations, mysterious structures in deep space. Something was happening in human territory. The Council needed to know what. He assembled a special investigation fleet, placing it under the command of Admiral Torvin of the Draxian Empire. Torvin was known for his strategic mind and his caution, qualities that would be valuable for this mission. The fleet consisted of 50 ships, including heavy cruisers and science vessels equipped with the best sensors Council technology could provide. Your mission is simple, Vexter told Torvin in a private meeting. Find the humans, determine what they're doing, and assess whether they pose a threat to Council security. Torvin nodded, but he had a question. And if they refuse to let us investigate, then you are authorized to use whatever force is necessary, Vexter replied. The humans seem to have forgotten that Council authority extends across all of known space. Whether they recognize it or not, also assigned to the mission was Counselor Yuna. one of the few humans who had advocated for remaining in the council. She was a diplomat, not a soldier, and she believed that this crisis could still be resolved through negotiation. She had been born on Earth, but had spent most of her life working in council space, building bridges between humanity and alien species. "I can negotiate with them," Yuna insisted, as the fleet prepared to depart. "I know Ambassador Deho. We worked together for years. If I can just talk to him, I'm sure we can find a peaceful solution." Torvin was skeptical, but he appreciated having a human perspective on the mission. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading toward the coordinates the Luthic scout had provided, he found himself hoping Yuna was right. He had fought in enough wars to know that they were always more costly than anyone expected. The journey took 3 days. During that time, the fleet passed through several systems that had once been bustling centers of human activity. Each one was the same. Planets intact, but empty. Space stations operational, but abandoned. It was eerie, like traveling through a galaxy of ghost towns. "This level of coordination is incredible," one of Torvin's analysts reported. "To evacuate this many people, this much infrastructure, without leaving any traces or witnesses. It suggests a level of organizational capability we've never seen from the humans." Yuna stood in the observation deck, looking out at one of the empty human worlds below. She had visited this planet once, years ago. It had been called Bright Harbor, a colony of 3 million people known for its beautiful coastal cities. Now, it sat silent and dark, maintained by automated systems, but devoid of life. Where did they all go? She whispered to herself when the fleet finally arrived at the coordinates from the Luthic report. Every sensor operator suddenly sat up straight, every screen filled with data, and every crew member who could see the forward displays simply stared in disbelief. Floating in the void of space, illuminated by the light of a massive blue giant star, was a structure that defied comprehension. It was a Dyson sphere in the early stages of construction, a vast ring of metal and machinery wrapping partially around the star. The scale was impossible to grasp. The incomplete sections alone were larger than gas giants. But that wasn't all. Long-range sensors detected similar structures in dozens of nearby systems. The humans weren't building one megastructure. They were building many. How is this possible? Torvin breathed. The resources required, the industrial capacity. This would take centuries using council technology.
Ice.
Unless they have technology we don't know about, his science officer suggested. Admiral, the energy signatures from those construction sites are unlike anything in our databases. Whatever they're using to build those things, it's not standard fusion or antimatter reactors. Before Torvin could process this information, a single ship appeared on their sensors. It was small compared to their capital ships, roughly the size of a destroyer. But there was something about its design that made Torvin's instincts scream danger. It was too sleek, too perfect, like a blade forged by a master craftsman. The human ship opened a communication channel. A man appeared on the screen, wearing a dark uniform that Yuna didn't recognize. His name tag read, Commander Taiwan. "Council vessels," Taiwan said politely, "you are currently trespassing in sovereign human space. This entire sector, extending 100 light-years in all directions, has been claimed by the United Human Commonwealth. You have 1 hour to leave, or you will be escorted out by force." Torvin felt a flash of anger. This single small ship was threatening his entire fleet. "Commander, I am Admiral Torvin of the Galactic Council. We are here on an official investigation. You will stand down and allow us to proceed." Taiwan's expression didn't change. "Admiral, with respect, we don't recognize the Galactic Council's authority. You are in human territory without permission. Please turn your fleet around." Yuna pushed forward, appearing on the transmission. "Taiwan, my name is Counselor Yuna. I'm human, like you. Please, let me speak with whoever is in charge. We just want to talk. We just want to understand what's happening out here." For the first time, Taiwan's expression softened slightly. "Counselor Yuna, I know who you are. Many of us respect your work in council space. But you chose to stay with the council. We chose a different path. What path? Yuna asked desperately. What are you building out here? Where did everyone go? Please, just tell me what's happening. Taiwan was silent for a moment, then seemed to make a decision. Fine. You want to know the truth? We'll tell you the truth. He pressed something on his console, and new data began flowing to the Council fleet's computers. Files, reports, construction records, survey data. The information was staggering in its scope. For 50 years, Taiwan explained, humanity has been preparing for this moment. We've been secretly surveying, colonizing, and industrializing hundreds of systems that the Council never even knew existed. We've been building shipyards, manufacturing centers, research facilities. All of it hidden, all of it off the books. Yuna felt sick. Why? Why would you do this in secret? Because we learned the lesson of New Jeju long before New Jeju happened, Taiwan said quietly. We learned it from a dozen smaller incidents. From every time the Council chose politics over action, from every time we asked for help and got committees instead, we realized that in the Galactic Council, humans are expendable. So we decided to make ourselves indispensable. And then we decided we didn't need you at all. Abrel Torvin had been studying the data with growing alarm. These industrial figures, they're impossible. You're claiming to have more manufacturing capacity than the entire Council combined. We're not claiming it, Admiral, Taiwan replied. We're stating it as a fact. Why do you think we evacuated our worlds in Council space? We don't need them anymore. We have better ones out here, in territory we control completely. This is madness, Torvin said. The Council will never allow this. You cannot simply claim hundreds of star systems and build, whatever those things are, without Council approval. Taiwan smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. Admiral, I'm going to give you a demonstration. Your fleet's current position has been locked into our targeting systems. Don't worry, we're not aiming at your ships. Look at bearing 273 Mark V. Torvin's crew turned their sensors in that direction. They detected a large asteroid, roughly the size of a small moon, floating in the distance. That asteroid is 17 light-years away from your position, Taiwan said. Watch carefully. He pressed a button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the asteroid simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there on their sensors. The next moment there was only expanding debris and radiation. What did you do? Yuna whispered in horror. We shot it, Taiwan said simply. From a weapons platform located in a completely different star system. We don't need to be close to reach you, Admiral. We don't need to bring our fleet to bear. We can strike anywhere in this sector from positions you cannot detect or approach. The Council fleet's crews were silent, processing what they had just witnessed. The implications were terrifying. If the humans could strike targets across interstellar distances with that kind of precision, we're leaving, Torvin said quietly. He was a soldier, and he knew when he was outmatched. We're leaving now. A wise decision, Taiwan acknowledged. Counselor Yuna, I'll give you a final message to take back to Nexus Prime. Humanity hasn't just left the Council. We've evolved beyond it. We're building something new out here. Something better. The Council can accept that and leave us alone, or the Council can try to stop us and learn just how far we've come. The choice is yours. The transmission ended. The human ship vanished, simply disappearing from sensors as if it had never been there. Admiral Torvin ordered the fleet to withdraw immediately. As they jumped back into hyperspace, Yuna sat alone, her mind reeling with terrible understanding. Humanity hadn't disappeared in defeat. They had emerged as something the galaxy had never seen before. And they were not interested in asking for permission anymore. 3 months after Admiral Torvin's return from human space, the Galactic Council was falling apart. The economic consequences of humanity's departure had finally arrived. And they were worse than anyone had predicted. The Morvathi economic minister stood before the Council assembly, his chemical translator struggling to convey the panic in his signals. We are facing complete economic collapse across 17 sectors. Without human industrial production, we cannot maintain current supply levels. Antimatter fuel production is at 30% of previous capacity. Quantum processor manufacturing has dropped by 60%. Medical supplies are running critically short on 43 member worlds. A Vryn delegate clicked her mandibles angrily. This is impossible. We have alternative suppliers. We have our own industries. Our alternative suppliers cannot meet demand, the minister replied. And they know it. Prices have increased by 300% in some markets. Species are hoarding resources. Trade wars are breaking out. The economic system that held the council together is breaking down. In the back chambers, away from the public sessions, Chancellor Vexler met with his closest advisors. Counselor Yuna had delivered her report weeks ago, but he had refused to believe most of it. Dyson spheres. Interstellar weapons? A hidden empire of hundreds of systems? It sounded like human propaganda designed to frighten the council into submission. But the economic data didn't lie. And neither did the military reports that were now flooding in from the frontier. The Cravathi Dominion had made its move. Sensing weakness in the council, sensing the absence of human military power that had quietly protected many frontier regions, the Cravathi launched a massive invasion. Their war fleets struck 30 systems in the first week alone. Species that had relied on council protection found that protection to be worthless. Committees were formed. Debates were held. And worlds burned while the council talked. Ambassador Deho's message arrived during one of these emergency sessions. It was brief, delivered through Quantum Ansible, and broadcast simultaneously across all council communication networks. 5 words appearing on every screen. You made your choice. Goodbye. The Vryn ambassador tried to salvage the situation. We must request human military assistance. Whatever their grievances, surely they can see that the Cravathi threat affects everyone. They won't help us, Yuna said quietly. She had been largely silent since her return, still processing what she had seen. They made that clear. We're on our own. But the Vryn were desperate. Their worlds were closest to Cravathi space, and they were taking the worst of the invasion. They sent an envoy, human-born Vryn citizen named Jihu, who had undergone the transformation process that allowed humans to join the collective Vryn consciousness. He carried an offer: full military alliance, technology sharing, and a formal apology for the Council's inaction on New Jeju. The response came 3 days later. It was a holographic message, sent directly to the Council chambers and projected for all to see. The figure that appeared was a woman in her 60s, her hair silver, her bearing confident. She wore a simple but elegant suit bearing an emblem Yuna didn't recognize. I am President Bora of the United Human Commonwealth, the woman began. I'm sending this message in response to the Vryn Alliance proposal. After careful consideration, humanity has decided to respond to the current crisis. Hope sparked across the council chamber. Finally, the humans were coming to help. However, Bora continued, and that one word crushed the hope instantly. Our assistance comes with conditions. 3 conditions, to be precise. They are non-negotiable. The image changed, showing text alongside Bora's face. First, the Galactic Council must be dissolved. It has proven itself incapable of effective governance and unwilling to protect its member species. It will be replaced by a new federation with equal representation for all species and mandatory military response protocols. Outrage erupted in the chamber, but the message continued. Second, humanity requires full sovereign control over all systems within 100 light-years of Sol. This includes many systems currently claimed by council members. Those species will be compensated fairly and offered relocation assistance, or shouting. Chancellor Vexler's scales had turned a dark, angry green. Third and finally, those responsible for the inaction that led to the New Jeju massacre must stand trial. This includes Chancellor Vexler, the former Military Command Council, and all council members who voted against intervention. They will face justice for their crimes against sapient life. The hologram of President Bora looked directly at the camera. These terms are final. You have 1 week to respond. If you refuse, humanity will deal with the Cravathi threat in our own way, in our own time. And the Council can handle its problems without us. Choose wisely. The message ended. The Council chamber descended into chaos. Some delegates supported the terms. Many of the smaller species, those who had always been marginalized in council politics, saw this as an opportunity for real change. But the powerful species, those who had dominated the council for centuries, saw it as human imperialism. "This is unacceptable." Vexter roared. "They would put me on trial? They would dissolve the council that has kept peace in this galaxy for 10,000 years. Never. I will never submit to human demands." Una stood up slowly. "Then millions more will die. The Cravathi won't stop, and we can't stop them without help." "We don't need human help," a Draxian military commander insisted. "We have the largest military force in the galaxy. We can defeat the Cravathi ourselves, can we?" Una asked. "Or will we form another committee to study the problem?" The debate raged for days. More worlds fell to the Cravathi. More desperate pleas for help arrived. The council was paralyzed, unable to act, unable to decide. It was New Jeju all over again, but on a galactic scale. In secret, Chancellor Vexter made a decision. If he could not control humanity diplomatically, he would destroy them militarily. He contacted the Morvathi warlords and the Draxian Empire's most aggressive faction. He offered them a deal. Join him in a surprise attack on Sol System, and they could divide conquered human territories among themselves. The Morvathi agreed immediately. The Draxians took more convincing, but eventually their ambition overcame their caution. In the deepest secrecy, they began assembling a fleet. Not just any fleet, but the largest armada in galactic history. 3,000 warships from a dozen species, carrying millions of soldiers and the most advanced weapons Council technology could produce. "The humans have grown arrogant," Vexer told his co-conspirators. "They believe their little megastructures and hidden weapons make them invincible. We will strike at Earth itself. We will destroy their homeworld and scatter their people. And then the galaxy will remember who truly holds power." Admiral Torvin was offered command of the invasion fleet. He refused. "This is madness," he told his superiors privately. "You didn't see what I saw out there. You didn't see what they built. We'll be destroyed." "You're a coward," his commander replied. "I'm assigned someone else to lead the attack." The fleet began gathering at a secret staging point, far from prying eyes. 3,000 ships, the might of the Council's greatest military powers, preparing to strike at humanity's heart. They were confident. They were powerful. They believed the humans' demonstrations had been tricks, that their true strength was far less than they claimed. Hai Jin, still operating on Nexus Prime, detected unusual military movements. She sent a single coded message to her handlers. "They're coming. Prepare for defense." The response was immediate. "We know. Let them come." The invasion fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading for Sol. They expected to find Earth defended by a few hundred ships at most. They expected a battle, certainly, but one they would win through sheer numbers and firepower. What they found waiting for them in the Sol System would shatter every assumption they had ever made about humanity's place in the galaxy, and it would change the balance of power forever. The combined Council Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol System. 3,000 warships materialized in perfect formation, their weapons charged, their shields raised, their crews ready for battle. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Admirals from a dozen species commanded various wings of the fleet. They had studied human tactics. They had prepared for every scenario. They had prepared for nothing like what they saw. Sol System was not defended by a few hundred ships. It was not a system struggling to survive in isolation. What lay before them was a fortress unlike anything in recorded galactic history. 7 Dyson spheres hung in space at various distances from the sun, each in different stages of completion. The smallest was 30% finished. The largest was nearly 60% complete. Each sphere was surrounded by thousands of weapons platforms, their power signatures burning like stars on the fleet's sensors. The orbital space around Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn was crisscrossed with defensive stations, each one larger than a Council battleship, and arrayed before the invasion fleet. Hanging in perfect formation, like a wall of steel, were tens of thousands of human warships. On the bridge of the lead Draxian battleship, The admiral commanding the invasion force felt his confidence die. His name was Corvin, chosen to replace Torvin after the latter's refusal to participate. He had dismissed Torvin as a coward. Now, looking at what faced them, he understood that Torvin had been wise. "How many ships?" he asked his sensor operator. "Counting, sir." 15,000 confirmed capital ships. Estimate another 20,000 smaller vessels. And the weapons platforms. The operator's voice trailed off. "Sir, there are more weapons platforms in this system than we have ships in our entire fleet." Before Corvin could process this, a communication channel opened. A human woman appeared on the screen wearing an admiral's uniform. Her face was calm, almost gentle, but her eyes held the weight of absolute authority. The name badge on her uniform read Admiral Sun-Hee. "Council Fleet," Sun-Hee said, her voice carrying across every ship in the invasion armada. "You have entered sovereign human space with hostile intent. This is an act of war. I am authorized to offer you one chance to avoid total destruction. Power down your weapons. Lower your shields. Prepare to be escorted to holding facilities where you will await trial for attempted xenocide. You have 5 minutes to comply." Corvin felt rage burn through his shock. His fleet outnumbered the human defenders at least 3-1. His ships were state-of-the-art council technology. He had millions of seasoned warriors under his command. He would not surrender to this upstart species. "All ships," he commanded across the fleet network. "Attack formation. We will show these humans the price of defying the council. Fire at will." 3,000 ships surged forward. Weapon systems that could level continents unleashed their fury. Energy beams capable of melting through capital ship armor lanced across space. Missiles by the hundreds of thousands streaked toward the human lines. It was an attack that should have overwhelmed any defense. The human ships didn't move. They simply activated their defensive systems. And the Council's attack evaporated like morning fog. Every energy beam struck some kind of field and dispersed harmlessly. Every missile detonated kilometers away from its target. Stopped by point defense systems so fast and so accurate, they seemed impossible. The few projectiles that did reach human shields simply bounced off, their kinetic energy absorbed and dissipated. "What kind of defensive technology is this?" Corvin demanded. "Sir, their shields are operating on principles we don't understand," his science officer reported. "It's like they're phasing the attacks into a different dimension, or the human counterattack began. And it lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Human ships didn't fire conventional weapons. They didn't use energy beams or missiles. Instead, Council ships simply started coming apart from the inside. Quantum displacement weapons reached into the target vessels and tore their reactor cores into pieces. Hulls twisted and buckled as artificial gravity wells crushed them like tin cans. Some ships simply vanished, transported instantly into the heart of nearby stars. A Morvathy heavy cruiser attempted to ram one of the human carriers in a desperate suicide attack. The human ship didn't even bother to move. It simply projected a gravitic field. The Morvathy cruiser hit the field at full speed and tumbled away, its hull crumpled, its crew dead from the deceleration forces. Within 2 minutes, half the Council fleet was destroyed or disabled. Within 3 minutes, the survivors were trying desperately to retreat. Within 4 minutes, only those ships that had immediately surrendered were still intact. Admiral Corvin sat in his command chair, surrounded by flashing warning lights and the screams of his dying crew. His ship was crippled, its power failing, its life support compromised. On his screen, Admiral Sun-Hee's face appeared again. "Admiral Corvin," she said quietly, "I gave you a chance. You chose violence? Now you face the consequences. Your remaining ships are being tractored to holding facilities. Your wounded will receive medical care. Your dead will be treated with respect, but you and your fellow commanders will stand trial for war crimes." "How?" Corvin whispered. "How did you become so powerful?" Sun-Hee's expression softened slightly. "We had 50 years to prepare, Admiral. 50 years of knowing that the Council would eventually come for us. 50 years of building, researching, and advancing. Did you think we were idle out here in the darkness? Did you think we were just waiting for you to accept us back?" She leaned forward, Humanity evolved, Admiral. We left behind the politics and limitations of council space. We built something new, something better. And we will never go back to being the species that begs for help while our people die. The transmission ended. Corvin's ship went dark as human tractors dragged it toward a holding facility. The invasion was over. The Council's military might had been shattered in less than 5 minutes. On Luna, in hastily converted facilities, the trials began 2 weeks later. The proceedings were broadcast across the entire galaxy. Chancellor Vexler stood in chains, along with the other architects of the invasion. They were charged with conspiracy to commit xenocide, attempted genocide, crimes against sapient life. The evidence was overwhelming. Recorded communications, strategic planning documents, orders to glass Earth's surface if resistance was encountered. The defendants were given fair trials, proper legal representation, and every opportunity to defend themselves. But the verdict was never in doubt. Vexler was found guilty on all counts. So were his co-conspirators. Their sentences were severe, but just. Life imprisonment under humanitarian conditions. Their species were not held responsible for their leaders' crimes. The council members who had opposed the invasion were treated as witnesses, not criminals. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, representatives from 200 species gathered at a newly constructed station called Unity. It orbited Earth, a symbol of humanity's commitment to their homeworld, and their willingness to engage with the galaxy on new terms. This was not the old council. This was the Galactic Federation of Sovereign Peoples. Every species, regardless of size or power, had one vote. Military action required a supermajority, and there were strict protocols for intervention when member species faced existential threats. Ambassador Deho, now Federation Secretary, stood at the central podium. His hair was completely gray now, his face lined with the weight of the past year, but his eyes were clear and determined. "We are here," he said to the assembled delegates, "not to rebuild the old order, but to create something new." The Galactic Council failed because it valued procedure over life. It failed because it treated some species as expendable. It failed because it had no mechanism to act when action was needed. He gestured to the Constitution displayed behind him. This Federation will not make those mistakes. When a member species calls for help, help will come. When injustice occurs, justice will be swift. We will not form committees while people die. We will not debate while worlds burn. We will act decisively and together. The delegates listened in silence. Many of them were the same individuals who had sat in the old council. But everything felt different now. There was no chancellor above them, no hierarchy of powerful and weak. Just equals working together. Humanity's advancement, Deho continued, was not luck. It was not some secret advantage in our genetics. It was desperation combined with freedom. We were forced to rely on ourselves, so we became stronger. We were freed from council bureaucracy, so we innovated faster. Now we offer that same opportunity to all of you. He pulled up holographic displays showing human technology. Our quantum displacement drives, our zero-point energy reactors, our medical nanite systems, all of this and more will be shared freely with Federation members. We will help you advance. We will help you defend yourselves. But we will not control you, and we will not let anyone else control you either. As his first act as Federation Secretary, Deho called for a vote on the Cravathi situation. The resolution was simple: cease hostilities immediately. Withdraw from all occupied territories and submit to Federation jurisdiction for peace negotiations. The vote passed unanimously. Within 3 months, a combined human Federation fleet had liberated every world the Cravathi had conquered. The Cravathi Dominion sued for peace. Their leaders stood trial. Their people were offered a choice: join the Federation as equals or remain isolated. Most chose integration. In a quiet moment after the final vote, Councillor Yuna approached Deho. She had remained in her position, working to help translate between the old ways and the new. There was sadness in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said. "I should have believed you back then. I should have supported the withdrawal." Daiho shook his head. You did what you thought was right. You tried to make the council work. That's not wrong, Yuna. It's admirable. But some systems can't be reformed. They have to be replaced. Was this always the plan? She asked. All of it. The secret construction, the preparations, even leaving the council. Was it always meant to lead to this? Daiho was quiet for a moment. No. Humanity wanted to believe in the council. We wanted to be part of something greater than ourselves. But New Jeju taught us a terrible lesson. It taught us that hope without strength is naivety. It taught us that trust without accountability is suicide. He looked out at the stars visible through the station's windows. We didn't want to stand alone, Yuna. The council forced us to. And in that isolation, we discovered something important. We didn't need the galaxy's permission to become extraordinary. We just needed the freedom to try. On Earth, President Bora watched the Federation proceedings with satisfaction. Project Director Minho stood beside her, tablet in hand displaying construction progress reports. The megastructure network is now 40% complete, he reported. Within 20 years, we'll be harnessing the power of 100 stars. Good, Bora said. But remember, Minho, all that power isn't for conquest. It's for protection. Protection from what? He asked. The council is gone. The Federation is stable. What are we protecting against? Bora smiled sadly. From ever being helpless again? From ever watching our people die while others debate? The galaxy has changed, Minho. We changed it. But we can never forget the price of weakness. Never again will humanity beg for help. Never again will we be at someone else's mercy. She turned back to watch the Federation proceedings. We're building a better galaxy now. A fairer one. A safer one. But we're building it from a position of strength. Because that's the only position that matters when survival is on the line. The stars shone bright above Earth, and humanity stood among them, not as supplicants, but as equals. The galaxy had changed forever. And perhaps, just perhaps, it was a change that everyone desperately needed.